Yeah.
To the extent that New York City represents about 14% of the world Jewish population.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. Of the world Jewish population? Wow.
And I wanted to know, as the ambassador for the Jewish community, how do you envision, as the would-be mayor, being the representing the Jewish community, and how might you act officially and unofficially with world leaders in Israel and otherwise?
Well, first of all, I mean, is New York great or what? That you would have the potential of an Irish gal to get to be the ambassador, for New York to Israel. There was a funny story. There was a Jewish mayor of Dublin, Mayor Briscoe, and when Yogi Berra was in Dublin, they introduced him to Mayor Briscoe, and they said, "Yogi, he's the mayor of Dublin, but he's Jewish." And Yogi looked at him standing there in Dublin in the city hall and said, "Only in America." But with that, backdrop, I've been, as was mentioned, I've been lucky enough to go to Israel 4 times. Once as a council member, 3 times as speaker. And on each of those trips, I continue to be overwhelmed by the fortitude and the faith of the people of Israel. On one of the trips, we were in City Hall meeting with the mayor of State Road, and the alarms went off. And they took us to what they called the bomb shelter. I don't mean to criticize, it was the landing in between the 2nd and 3rd floor. I was expecting a little more, to be honest, but it wasn't a moment to quibble. And after things cleared, we drove about a mile. Actually, I'll say, it was with Michael Miller. We took a boat on the bus. I said we could all go back to Jerusalem, or we could continue on and stay where we were supposed to stay all day. No judgment, what do people want to do? Everyone said we want to stay. We then drove a mile away to a community where the rocket hit. If that window was the health clinic, and that wall was the house, the rocket hit right in the middle. Now, nobody was hurt. But the thing to me that was so striking was people were gathered around looking at the hole in the ground in the rocket. There was a backhoe digging up the rocket. People looked and left and went back on with their day. People were sweeping up glass. There was a dog running in and out of the hole, having a grand old time. And it was so striking to me. If that happened in New York, the city would stop, grind to a halt. It would be on every news channel. It would be appropriately so all we talked about for days, weeks, months. And it's so common at times in Israel. It was almost barely noticed. And the hole was a plaything for the dog. And I was both immensely saddened by that and immensely impressed that folks were so strong to keep going and not be daunted in their quest to remain the state of Israel. So I think what I would do if I'm lucky enough to have that position is talk about my experience of getting to go to Israel. Talk about my just emotional reaction to being there and being there with my colleagues. Some who are Jewish, some who are not. Every time I've been there, I've been afforded, the highest level of meetings with the Prime Minister himself. And I would continue to seek those opportunities so I could hear directly what we could do to be helpful. It was mentioned that when Gilad Shalit was still being held, his father was here. And we gave his father a city council proclamation and an official presentation. Now, from the perspective of what did it take for us to do that? Nothing. Nothing. We made a proclamation. We gathered people together in a conference room. We had a press conference. But it was covered around the world because not even the mayor, but less than that, the city council did this. That was not lost on me. And it was not lost on me the next time I was in Israel when I spoke to him and his father about what had happened when he was released. So I would look for guidance from the community, look for guidance from leaders in the community that I trust, and seize every opportunity. Because look, what's the city in America that has been most targeted with attacks because of who we are, the way we've chosen to live, the diversity we have, and our commitment to freedom and democracy? New York. What is the country in the world that can say that same thing? Israel. So in my opinion, New York is Israel, Israel is New York, and as mayor, I would do everything I could to make sure I had the right knowledge, the right connections, the right information to raise my voice, to make that perfectly clear across this country and across this world.
Thank you.
Just your actually last question about homeland security issues. I work with community security service that helps the community on security. So I don't know if you could talk a little bit more about homeland security, particularly as it relates to the Jewish community.
Sure. So, we've been, in a lot of ways, the NYPD and Ray Kelly have now written the book on urban terrorism. And they've done that while simultaneously thwarting about a dozen